Now, as we move from the weekly cycle, I want to talk about seasons, because a lot of people don't know about seasons, and you should know about the seasons because that's also been twisted. Everything that deals with the High's calendar has been twisted by the devil and handed on to other pagan nations, and then we've adopted it. I mean, the same Hebrew lunisolar calendar that many people use today, and so people are keeping all of Hanukkah and the Feast of Dedication at these times, always around the Christmas winter solstice, and they don't even see the trick. See, when it comes to the Most High scriptural festivals, none of them deal with the equinoxes or solstices. It's not around those pagan worshiping times. He's separated those things. It's only the pagan worshiping times that you see when Christmas comes along. Anciently, it was the winter solstice festival, the midwinter festival, Saturnalia, Yuletide, and then people just put Christmas on it. And then when you follow a false calendar, people think around that time too is the Feast of Dedication, and it's not a time to rededicate yourself that way. It's not. I'm sorry, and that's just a part of this error here. Great errors are going on because the seasons have been twisted up. So let me share with you a little bit about the seasons, things you should know. There are astronomical seasons that are governed by the equinoxes and solstices, which the whole world is deceived by and uses. Then you have meteorological or thermal seasons, which is temperature based, and this is based upon when you're watching your news and the meteorologists are talking about things. And if you ever hear them say meteorological winter or meteorological summer, they're talking about something that's a little bit different than astronomical seasons.
Welcome to a new season, meteorologically speaking, but what's the difference? We take it to outer space and we start with astronomical seasons because, after all, that's probably the one that you're most familiar with, the one that you learned in school. We know that astronomical winter began with the winter solstice, marking the day with the shortest amount of daylight of the year, and also marking the time when the solar energy is the greatest in the southern hemisphere, not to be confused with the north. We know that that's astronomical, but what else do we know? Well, we know that they both start and end with the two equinoxes and the two solstices. But did you know that in astronomical seasons, they're not exactly 3 months in length? That's because there are actually variations in date. Bring in our new best friend, the meteorological seasons, which always begin on the first of the month, always end on the last day of the month, and they are always 3-month periods. And that's because there's no variation in date. In other words, at a side-by-side comparison, look at how much cleaner and easier it is to look at the meteorological seasons. Remember, an astronomical winter, even though the winter solstice is on December 21st, there are some years where it may vary. But in meteorological, there's no change, and it's always the same every single year. Boy, I wish everything in meteorology were that simple.
And then we have the solar or daylight seasons, which is the true scriptural seasons that we understand to be true, and the scriptures also point to that. And when you hear the term solar radiation, it means the amount of daylight or sunlight from rise to sunset, how long the sun is out. Nothing to do with how cloudy or if you can see it, just when the sun rises to sunset. That's called solar radiation. And I was going to get into now about what these solar seasons are actually about. Because if you know anything about calendars, even in the scriptures, it talks about this great calendar switch that was put by Jeroboam. And Jeroboam was the one who switched the Most High's calendar from being in its true fixed form, and he made it align with the equinoxes and solstices, and that's what he did. He made a festival in the 8th month, in the middle of the month, which is actually mid-autumn, and that's again where the autumn equinox occurs, and that's where the pagans worship and the Egyptians worshipped, and he got those things from the Egyptians and pagans. So anybody who's keeping like that lunar month calendar and they have the Feast of Dedication and everything going on at the equinoxes and solstices, it's all Jeroboam's false calendar that made Israel sin. And this is why many of our people are in sin. We're not sinning purposely, but it's a stumbling block, just like how Balak wanted Balaam to put a stumbling block in front of the children of Israel and make them keep false festivals with the heathens. It's the same today. These equinox calendars and the lunar calendar is very, very evil and wrong, and it's against the true scriptural calendar. Now, let me get into solar seasons, what a solar season is, and also give a demonstration. Brother Javid?
Solar seasons are determined by the amount of sunlight or daylight of each day within a 3-month season. The solstices and equinoxes are the midpoints of the solar seasons. 1. Solar spring runs from early February through to early May. It's the 3 months that sunlight increases at the fastest rate of the year. 2. Solar summer runs from early May through to early August. It's the 3-month season with the most possible sunlight of the year. 3. Solar autumn runs from early August through to early November. It's the 3 months when the amount of daylight reduces the fastest. 4. Solar winter runs from early November through to early February. It's the 3 months of the year with the least amount of sunlight.
Okay, so this is how it works, and this is how it is in the world. But just notice again, it says the equinoxes and solstices are the midpoints. I mean, you just use your wisdom right here, family. All right, they say that the beginning of winter was last week, December 21st. All right, so that's called the winter solstice. That's the shortest day in the year and the longest night. And then right after that, the days are getting longer. So, I mean, that's the beginning of winter, yet the days are getting longer. No, it doesn't even make no sense. Same thing with summer. When summer hits, the summer solstice, that's the longest day of the year and the beginning of their summer season. But right after that, the days are getting shorter. Again, it makes no sense. It's the midpoints. So notice early February to early May to early August to early November to early February. This is how it goes scripturally. This is how it is with the solar seasons. And let me just show you a quick video in this area here.
Last time we checked out astronomical and meteorological seasons, but this time we will check out solar seasons. Solar seasons are actually based on insolation or solar radiation, where the solstices and equinoxes are viewed as the midpoints of the season. Solar seasons change about 3 to 4 weeks ahead of the meteorological seasons and about 6 to 7 weeks ahead of the astronomical seasons. And the best way to explain the seasons when it comes to solar is to look at a chart here involving the insolation at various latitudes in the northern hemisphere, starting off with the equator, 30 degrees north, 60 degrees north, and 90 degrees north. And we're mostly going to focus on the 30, 60, and 90 degree latitudes here when it comes to the increasing and decreasing amounts. So let's first start off here when it comes to spring, which consists of increasing insolation or solar radiation. And that's depicted here in the green for the months of February, March, and April. And you can already tell that those three areas, those three lines are actually beginning to increase. And it's with the equinox being at the midpoint of that solar spring. Now we move on into summer, where we see the months of maximum insolation or solar radiation, and that's depicted here in the red, and that happens throughout the months of May, June, and July. Now we start going in the opposite direction here as we start going into autumn here, and that actually begins in August, September, and October as we start seeing decreasing amounts of insolation or solar radiation. So you can already see how it's already hit its maximum in the summer, and now it's beginning to see that downward trend. And then lastly, in the blue there, we have winter, where it's the minimum insolation, and that actually happens in the months of November, December, but also in the months of January. And that is all when it comes to solar seasons.
Nice.
All right.
Nice short video. It's amazing how these things have always been in front of us, but our minds weren't trained to see these things. But the solar seasons describe the true scriptural seasons.
Yep. I mean, it makes sense that the sun has the major role out here for signs of days, that way, and of seasons. Summer and winter are depicted by the sun, it being hotter and out longer that way. And then, of course, with these solar seasons, it's going to be the one controlling things. And it matches up perfectly with the scriptures.
That's right.
And so what you see here on the screen is, this is a chart of all of Jah's common 364-day year, and we'll talk about that as well. How it's 12 months. And we teach greatly, again, as you know, February is the beginning of scriptural spring, and they would call it solar spring. The first month of Bib has 28 days. It begins on the first day of the week, also equivalent to Sunday. Then Ziph has, come to March, it has 31 days, and it starts on a Sunday as well. But not all days start on a Sunday. For example, the third month, Sivan, equivalent to April, it has 30 days, but it starts on the fourth day of the week. And so as we go through this calendar chart, you'll see that each month has its, what day of the week it starts on in terms of numerical and also the Gregorian and how many days are in that month. So if we go to the 7th month, which is the month Ethanim, another holy month that has 31 days, and it's the only month that starts on the 7th-day Sabbath. If you take a look, all of these other months don't start on the 7th-day Sabbath at all. It's just this month. And this is by Jah's great and beautiful, perfect design, again with the number 7s. And so when we're showing you, what days and how long each day is on this chart here, I'll tell you something. We can prove it from the Holy Scriptures. And our last live lesson that we did about 4 weeks ago, we proved greatly the first 2 months. So what you see on your screen is a perfect chart, one of our champion charts that deals with the divisions. Everything is color coded. I've made all these charts myself. Again, with the latter rains, and then we have the early rains. You have the summer and autumn. You have the titles, how many days are in each season, 89, 92, 92, 91. All of these things, what day of the week each season starts on, much less the months. So this is a perfect calendar of perfection, and it's very true. Now remember, the solstices and the equinoxes are the middle of Jah's season. So again, you see the spring equinox in the middle, again perfectly. The summer solstice in the middle in June. The mid-autumn equinox in September, where they have it's in the middle. And the winter solstice, like we said, right now we're at midwinter time. And again, you just look up these things in the world, you'll see, if you look up midsummer, it tells you it's the middle or height of summer. But it also says it's another name for the summer solstice. So, we're learning that solar summer, the summer solstice is the middle. And obviously, by this dictionary definition, it's also called midsummer, the middle of summer. Along with that goes with midwinter, the middle or depth of winter, right? A midwinter festival, the winter solstice. All of these things are dealing with, the solstice, and it letting us know that it's the middle of the season, not the beginning of winter. I hope you're starting to see this. I mean,
yeah,
you got the solar seasons to know. You're getting a little bit of information here, and you might think we're done, but there's a little bit more. Let's look at solar spring.
Welcome to solar spring. You may have never heard of it before, but solar seasons are based on the amount of daylight we have each day. And from today through May 4th, we will have the biggest increase in daylight through the whole year. And this is called solar spring. And you'll start to notice big changes in our atmosphere between now and May 4th. The big reason why, the sun angle. Think back to the winter solstice, the sun very low on the horizon, only 24 degrees above the horizon. But over the last couple of months, since the winter solstice, the sun has been steadily inching up a bit in the sky. Today it's at a 32-degree angle, and from now through May 4th, that will continue to go up at a very quick rate and then slow down a little bit as we approach the summer solstice, when it reaches its highest point in the sky at an altitude of more than 70 degrees. It does take a little while for the temperatures to respond to this higher sunlight, though. That's why the warmest weather doesn't happen until the summer. Reason for that, all of the oceans covering the globe. If we didn't have the water that takes a while to warm up, the temperatures would more evenly match the sun angle, which is already on the way up as we speak. But that said, you'll probably start to notice in these next several days the later and later sunsets. Today, 5:10 in the evening, February 21st, 5:30 in the evening, and then we spring forward on March 10th, and the sunset will be nearly 7 p.m. By the way, the sun rises tomorrow morning, the first one before 7 in the morning. I'm meteorologist Ryan Breton, Fox 61, Connecticut's news station.
Yeah, nice one. Solar spring.
So it's good to get this understanding of these seasons. Isaiah put in this. Do you think many people don't even bother with these calendars because we've taken on Christian doctrines? Don't see many talk about calendars. It's almost non-existent. Well, yeah, for true it is. But once you get into especially amongst Christianity, because, and think about it, they accept the Gregorian calendar as what it is, and they keep the solar festivals of Christmas and Easter. Those are solar and lunar worshiping times, you understand? And these are not things that are by accident, but you'll find that many people who want to keep the festivals, they'll use a lunar calendar, and calendars are very important within that circle of believers. There are some Christians that keep the festivals as well, and they talk about them, and Messianics as well. And calendars is coming quite important nowadays, more than it ever has before, because we're starting to see what's going on in the Most High's revealing truths. So it's very important that we understand these calendars, because remember in Daniel it says 7:25, I think it says the adversary, like the anti-Messiah, is going to think to change times and laws. And
That's right.
This is exactly what it is. Times are dealing with calendars, and the calendars have been switched. I mean, when you think about it, ancient moon and solar worship were only utilized with their solar or lunar calendars. That's how you worship the moon and stars. They don't say, "Oh, I love you, sun," or "Oh, I love you, moon." No, when the sun and moon are in some special astronomical ways or special phases, they have special rites, and ceremonies towards these things. And that's for the heathen nations. That was never for the children of Israel, even though many Israelites who call themselves Israelites today in Hebrews all use, that lunar calendar that way. Yes, they might use the Enochian, and there's a little bit more. I don't want to kind of put everybody under that umbrella, because there's quite a few calendars out there in use.
The moon, Earth's faithful celestial companion. In Babylon, the moon was represented by the god Sin, symbolizing wisdom, fertility, and lunar cycles. In ancient Egypt, Thoth was the god of the moon, hieroglyphs, science, magic, messenger of the deities, and patron of scribes. In ancient Greece, Selene was considered the personification of the moon, while Artemis, the goddess of hunting, represented its active and wild aspects. In Roman mythology, the moon was personified as Luna, a goddess associated with dreams and lunar cycles. In Chinese mythology, the moon was connected to the goddess Jade and the jade rabbit. In Hindu mythology, the moon is personified as Chandra, who embodied beauty and devotion. In Maya civilization, the moon was seen as the goddess Ixchel, associated with fertility, childbirth and healing. Within the Inca civilization, the moon was revered as Mama Quilla, the goddess of marriage and fertility.
Now, one thing I want to say is that when it comes to understanding the true almanac, you have to know the true seasons, as we're talking about. And we've did great lessons. I probably think I did more lessons on the true seasons of summer and winter in the land of Israel than any other, kind of topic in calendars. And this is because of the rainy seasons and the summer seasons match up perfectly with the rainy seasons and summer seasons with the land of Israel. And the Most High said that he's going to keep his eye on that land and give the rain in its due season. So this is one of the understandings that we have greatly when it comes to the land of Israel and the scriptural calendar. They synchronize in such a beautiful way that it's I can only say it's awesome. And with this chart here that I made, this deals with the Israel seasons over the land of Canaan. And just like the other charts, they're color coded. This chart has the days and months of Jah's scriptural calendar, along with the Gregorian calendar, the same number of days that way, the temperature in degrees Celsius and Fahrenheit, the amount of daylight, that's solar radiation or sunlight. So the sun will be out for 11 hours, 12, 13, and you can see it increase, excuse me, as it moves through the year. And then when it gets to autumn, it starts to decrease and get lower when it comes to the winter season. Also with the rainy seasons, you can see that there's a lot of rain in February, March, and April. That's the last of the latter rain. And then summer is a season of no rain for 6 months, from May through to October. And just near the last week or two of October, that's when the rainy season begins again. And officially, it starts in November. You have your amount of days as well. And of course, we have our spring equinoxes and summer solstices being the correct spot, the middle, and not the beginning of Jah's true season. That's the beginning of the satanic astronomical seasons of which you live in. It's not the beginning of winter, it's the middle of winter.
That's right.
This calendar, this chart here is also very, very perfect. Go ahead, brother.
Any calendars that use the equinoxes and solstices as the beginning of seasons are in error. Any calendar that uses the solar system time frames as a foundation for time reckoning also are in error. Any calendar that uses either lunar months, Sabbaths, and feasts are in error. Here is a list of just some of the erroneous astronomical calendars. The modern Gregorian and Julian calendars, the professed Hebrew lunisolar calendar, the professed Enoch or Enochian calendars, the Mazzaroth zodiac lunisolar calendars, the modern Abib Barley lunisolar calendar, the new moon lunar Sabbath barley harvest calendar, the ancient Egyptian and Babylonian lunisolar calendars, the ancient pagan Greek and Roman lunar calendars, and the Ethiopian or Greek Orthodox 360 plus 5 days or 6-day month calendars.
That's right. So you can see there's quite a few lists of calendars here that many people use to say that it is the true scriptural calendar. But they use either lunar months or they use the equinoxes, and this is how we know, because we have a bird's eye view to see that these calendars are false. They're erroneous, they're false, and it's the devil that was enjoying having people try to use the Leviticus chapter 23 festivals, but it's being put upon wrong calendars. Just like Isaiah says here, true, because to truly understand Leviticus 23, you need the original calendar, and that's right.
That's right.
And we utilize that. So all of these calendars that you see on the screen, believe you me, they're all false, and there might be even a couple more, but I'm pretty sure I've covered most of them that profess to be the true scriptural calendar.